Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I am going to show you today exactly what's happening with this solar system in terms of what it's producing. I'm going to show you some live data right now of what this solar system is producing at 12:15 on an Easter Sunday. Happy Sunday everybody. Happy Sunday, happy Easter and happy Sunday. Hope everyone's having a good one. The sun is shining, it's a fantastic day. Right, let's take a look and see what this system that we installed 8 weeks ago is producing. And I'll go for a few logistics of it. So I'm just going to share a screen with you guys a minute. Here we go. So what I'm sharing with you now, this is exactly what the customer sees from their app. I'm currently viewing it exactly as the customer. So you can see here that this system already today, bearing in mind we're only at lunchtime right now, this system's already produced 25 kilowatt hours of solar. So that solar energy that's being produced from those solar panels is 25 kilowatts. Fantastic. Okay, so you can see here 100% of this 25 kilowatt of power has been used in the home. So it's either gone to the load, which the load being your appliances within the home. So that's your load within your house. Anything you turn on, that's classed as a load. And then so it's either gone, that solar production's either gone to the load of the house or it's gone into the battery of the system in the house that we've installed. So I'll show you a couple of photos shortly of what this battery looks like in the home shortly. So yeah, hold on for that because that's coming up. So yeah, 100% of the solar production has been used within the home, which is great, really good. And you can see that 100 watts of the power has gone to the grid. So basically pretty much nothing, guys. That is absolutely nothing. And you can see here that the load consumed within the house is 22.7 kilowatt hours. So that 21.9 kilowatt hours of that electricity came from PV, which means photovoltaics, basically your solar panel system, and battery. Basically 21.9 kilowatt hours of that was from your solar and battery. So out of that 22 kilowatt load used in the home, 21 kilowatts of that came from the PV and battery. So that meant that this system so far has been 96% self-sufficient, which is fantastic. That is really good. We want figures like this. These are fantastic figures. So basically, in a nutshell, so far today, this system is pretty much running self-sufficiently on this glorious day. So let's have a little look further down, and you can see here. Hold on a minute, I do apologize. This is actually yesterday's data, so this is actually what's happened throughout the whole day. Don't worry, we'll take a look at today's as well. But it doesn't really matter. The main thing is that you understand, try and understand what I'm saying. So you can see here, right, looking at this line here, this zero here, see this straight line through here, that is zero power. So if you imagine just a straight line running through here that you can just about see, right, you can see here, this is from midnight then. From midnight here, this is what's happened, right? This yellow means battery. So this is battery power that's been used in the home here. So you can see here, there's a, if I just click on it, you can see here that at this point here, the battery power being used in the home was 1.5 kilowatts. I'm not going to go into too much detail at this point because I'm just trying to give you a bit of an overview. But here, this red is the load of the house. This is what's being used in the home. So you can see this is the load, general appliances that are on tick over in the night time, your fridge, your freezer, all your bits and pieces that kick in and kick out throughout the night time. That's basically what this red line is here. You can see here that the battery has been, where there's a load there, the battery has equally is a perfect symmetry there between the load and the battery. That's because where the load is kicked in, the battery is also kicked in to take that load. So you can see here there is no usage from the grid electricity. Grid electricity is represented in blue here. You can see that yesterday there's absolutely no grid shown here, which means that there was no grid electricity import. So this installation yesterday didn't use pretty much anything from the grid, which is great. So the battery here, you know, obviously there's no solar production. This is solar production happening here, which I'll come to now. So that battery here is nicely kicking in and taking up the load of the property here, right the way through. The symmetry remains right the way through to this point here, which, as you can see here, the battery can now take a break because the solar production has now began for the morning. What time did that start? That started at roughly about, that started at around about 10, about 10:30 in the morning, that the solar production started, right? So it was actually slightly earlier than that, but yeah, that's just to give you an idea. So the solar production now kicks in here. So look at this, a lovely healthy amount of production there, and you can see here again we've got symmetry lines here. So you see this spike here of solar production, that in turn we've got a spike coming down here. What's happening now here, guys, is that this yellow line here is obviously solar. So that's sorry, the battery. So the battery here is powering the home. That's where you got this symmetry line here. But guess what? This battery now has gone down to a sub-zero. It's gone down. It's gone the other way. It's gone beneath the zero. What's basically happening here is that there's enough solar being produced that is not only powering the home, which is this red line here. You can see it covers that completely. There's so much solar power being produced, it's now going into the battery. So that's why the battery's being used. That's why it's above the zero line here. Battery power being used here, and now the solar's kicking in. It's now gone into a charging state. So the battery's taking a rest at this point. The solar is now charging the battery back up here all throughout the day, and then it comes up to here where as you can see, the solar power now dwindles off at this point here, and then that's when it now means that the batteries are no longer charging, and at this point the solar production stopping now crosses over with the battery now kicking in, and that is where for the rest of the evening the battery is now, if you notice there's these 1-2 spikes here, you got 1-2 spikes there, and the same here. That's the battery kicking in and taking that load off the property. So yes, a very good day yesterday. Let's have a look at today being this glorious day. Wow, look at this. You can see here already there is a very good amount of solar production happening here. Whoa, battery power 8 kilowatts. There's two screens on the app. So this is all the grid and solar and battery information here shown to you in a lot of detail. If I kick back here, take a look at this. Sorry guys, I probably should have shown you this screen first, to be honest, because you can see here that the PV production, this information was updated 1 minute ago. 8.57 kilowatts of power currently being produced by these solar panels. So if that keeps up for an hour, that means that will be 8.57 kilowatt hours of solar production for that hour, which is fantastic. So you can see here that this property has got a load of 0.56 kilowatts, so it's using about 560 watts of power in the property. That is the load. That's the red line that we've been seeing along here. That's that red line there currently. So that's the load, and you can see here that the solar production massively outweighs what is being used in the home. It is absolutely flooding the system, which is great with solar production. Lovely, beautiful, clean, free energy. So this is the solar production here, and this is the battery power here. The battery is getting a damn good charging up here. So as you can see here, well, I can just go back to the screen here. You can see here that it's putting in a colossal 8 kilowatts of power straight from the solar system. Is going into the inverter, which is then converting this electricity so it could be used in the home. It's sending it into the battery, and it's also sending it into the property. So basically this place is running completely self-sufficient right now. It's showing that there's 24 watts of power coming from the grid. That grid power is not going into the property. What's happening here is this grid power is going to the inverter, because this inverter needs mains electricity. It's reading the mains electricity. It needs it to keep the system powered up, so that it basically needs to know that that has got a grid supply coming to it. So that 24 watts of power, which is basically, guys, that is nothing. That's pretty much in the grand scheme of things here. It's absolutely nothing. So that power is going to the inverter, just to sort of let the inverter know that there's that there is power here, and this system will it needs to know that there's grid power coming in for it to work. If the grid power suddenly stopped, it will stop producing power. And these systems can be rigged up so they can go into EPS mode, which is emergency power supply, and then it can actually feed some items as well, depending on how the system's set up. But anyway, I'm not going to go into that right now because that's not what this video is about. But yes, so yeah, you can see here that this battery is 84% charged at the moment. The battery size on this system is 32 kilowatt hours of battery storage, so that's a lovely size battery to have. And yeah, it's currently getting 8 kilowatts of power. So let's go back. Let me show you exactly what this system actually looks like. So here we go. Let's take a look at what this system looks like. Here we have it. I wonder if I can make that a bit bigger. Not really, but it's all good. So you can see here, this is the battery system stack here. This is what 32. This comes up to, if I'm stood next to that, that's coming between my chest and my waist roughly. I'm 6'1". This is kind of like in between height here. Basically, what we got here, this black cable running around, where you can see my cursor. This is the main grid power coming in from the road. Or from the pole, whichever way you look at it. This is where the incomer comes into the main property. It then goes in through this 3-phase main head, which then goes through their meter, which then goes through the system here, and this is the consumer unit for the property. It's quite a big property, as you can see from the photo here. It's feeding multiple things. Various other consumer units around the property. Here is our consumer unit, which is basically connected to our inverter here. So this inverter here is the one. This is the beast, which is converting electricity from solar generated electricity to electricity you can use in the home. Basically, it's converting it from a DC voltage to an AC voltage, and then it's making it so that it can then power the property and power the battery stack. So let's see if I can get a better angle of that. So yes, this is bit of a better angle, so you can see. So what we got here is these cables actually come from the solar, and they're coming in. So this 8 kilowatts of power that we're getting at the moment, this is solar production, which is coming in. These cables here come from the solar panels. They come down the line here into the inverter. This inverter is converting it from a DC voltage, like they currently are here, and converting it and putting it into an AC voltage. So this is basically where the magic happens. This is where all the hefty stuff is happening. So once the solar energy is in here, it then comes the first priority. It will always feed the load of the house. So from the cable, you can just about see here, that feeds in through the meter here, and then from this point here, it goes into the consumer unit, which I showed you in the previous photo, and then that distributes and feeds the whole house's electricity. Second priority, if the house is completely running sufficiently, which in our case it is, because we know that the house is using 500 watts of power, but the solar production is 8 kilowatts of power. We know that 500 watts of power is ticking over the house nicely. We got a 7.5 kilowatt of power, which needs to go somewhere. So that is why it's all going straight into this lovely battery stack here. So this battery stack will be powered, will be getting charged throughout the day today. And then once it's fully charged, the third port of call of where this electricity is going to go, it's going to go back to the grid, because the house is, say it's using 500 watts of power still later on. If we're still producing anywhere near over 7 kilowatts of power, 8 kilowatts of power, then if the batteries are completely what's the word I'm looking for? Completely charged. I was going to find a better word for it, but yeah, completely charged. Then the only other place for it to go is back to the grid. And then from that grid energy going back to the grid, that is where you can then use good tariffs like Octopus Flux, where you can actually export that power back to the grid and get paid for it. So it is a win-win-win all round, guys. So let me go back a minute. I'm going to go back to a screen share. I've only looked into today and yesterday. Let's have a look and go back a couple of days. So bear with me just 1 second. Right, here we go, back to the screen share. Now let's have a look. So it's gone up slightly. The PV production's gone up to 8.66 kilowatts. Battery is at 86% charged. That's not going to take any time at all to be fully charged. Well, one thing I haven't done as well is had a look down here. Look at down here. This is the battery status down here. So you can see it can be, when it's at 100%, you'll know about it because you'll get a complete flat line at the top. Let's look at yesterday, or maybe the day before. Does it? There you go. You can see here, basically, the battery state of charge here is at 100%, and you've got a lovely flat line curve. That's because it's still at 100% all the way across there. Yeah, that's basically because either basically the battery's completely charged, and there's still serious amounts of solar being produced. So therefore, the solar's taking care of the home. The battery's fully charged, so anything else is now being exported back to the grid. And you can see sort of like later in the day, then it then turns to 98% and starts dropping, and that's obviously where the solar production has stopped, and now the battery is now kicked in for the evening. So it's great that you can watch these curves and sort of see, you can see the relationship between the solar production here and what's happening here. So you can see obviously that battery power is being used here, and it's going down and down and down and down. You can see here it actually plateaus and gets to 0% here. It completely flatlines here. It ran out of battery for a few hours at this point here, but then you can see in line with that, as soon as the solar production started happening, the first thing it did was took care of the load of the house, which is this red line. And then after that, as the solar production starts to come up, you can start to see here that the curve of the battery then starts to come up as well. And then by this point in the day, you can see here that the battery is now back to 100% charged. So yes, a great result. What you can do as well in these situations, when you get a situation when your battery completely runs out like this, this happens particularly in the winter, colder months. So when that happens, you can actually set these systems to force charge. So when they force charge, you'll see a great big spike of load here. This red here will spike right down to here. I think we got a 10 kilowatt inverter on this installation, so you'll see it go all the way down to here, a great big red spike here. And you'll also see a mirror image of the battery spike going up here. That's because you can set a force charge, and you can do it between the hours of cheap rate of electricity. So that's your cheap rates of grid import on off-peak. So for an Octopus Flux currently, that's like between 2 to 5 a.m. So the electricity is considerably cheaper between 2 to 5 a.m. So you charge your battery system in the early hours of the morning when it's cheaper, and then you can have a nice healthy amount of battery power here. What will happen is you'll see that this curve go all the way up here like this, and then it will then start dropping off here, and then it means that your battery won't get to that 0% like you've got here. So yeah, that's basically what you do in that scenario. And by the time it's now it's dropping off to a low point, it's already picking up again from the morning. So if I go back a day, so you can see a good example of that. That's exactly it's not being charged by the grid, but it's not needed because there was enough production, solar production being made, that it had charged the battery enough. That means that as the curve drops off here in the early hours of the morning, by the time it gets very low, like here, this is where you can see here where that curve then starts to come up. That's exactly where the solar production then begins. So if I click on it, yeah, around about there, the battery dropped to around about 25%, but you can see that the solar production begun pretty early on at, yeah, around about 8:30, something like that roughly. You can see that the solar really started to kick in here, and as it starts to kick in here, that's where you can see that this yellow here is where the solar batteries is charging. You can see that the load to the house is completely taken care of by the solar production. And it's at this point here, it's the solar production is charging the battery and taking care of the load of the house at the same time. And you can see that from here, the curve coming up like that, ready. And then this is then the discharge of it going into the next day. So sorry if I repeat a lot of this stuff over and over, guys, but for me it's quite simple to sort of look at. However, I do know that from visiting a lot of customers and doing these solar installations, it does take quite a long time for people to grasp this. So I like to be as thorough as possible and explain things in as much detail. And I will keep making these videos so that, you know, the more videos you watch, the more and more you can understand from it. So now we're going back to the 14th. What day was... How many days back have I gone here? I've gone back to the Monday of this week. We're basically at the Monday of this week. So you can see here. Let me go up here a minute. So here we got PV production from Monday. Again, 29 kilowatts of PV production. So 97% of what was produced here was used in the home. Fantastic. Right, okay. So we can see here that the load consumed in this property was 35 kilowatt hours. And you can see here that 33.8 kilowatt hours of that solar production that was made was used in the home. So that meant that this house was running on 95% self-sufficiency on Monday of this week. Let's take a look at Tuesday. Oh my goodness, great figures again. PV production is 28 kilowatts, and 27 kilowatts of that production was used in the home, which gave this place this 98% of the power was used from the PV, basically, which is great. And then you can see down here that the load consumed was 33 kilowatts for the day, and it meant that from PV and battery, 31.9 kilowatts of power being used in the home came from the PV and the battery. So that gave this installation a 96% grid electricity independency. So that's great. So this house for this month is pretty much running more or less self-sufficient. And bearing in mind that for this week, I'm only showing the week at the moment, is pretty much self-sufficient. So or not far off, should we say. So yeah, here we go again. Next day is looking great. 54 kilowatt hours produced in a day. That is massive. And one thing to consider as well, guys, is that these figures are pretty big, because this is a house that is using a serious amount of power. 20,000 kilowatt hours of power is an insane amount of power to use in the home. But when you've got like multiple buildings and you've got lots of activity and lots of things going on, like jacuzzis and things like that, and if you are using electric double ovens and electric hobs and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, your figures are going to be higher. For one reason or another. But yeah, we got PV production here is 54 kilowatts, and 51 kilowatts of that production was used in the home. So 96% of what was produced from solar was used in the home. And then we've got here the load consumed of 46, which 38 kilowatt hours of the solar and PV production. Sorry, let me start again. I got tripping on my words. 38 kilowatt hours of the solar production was used to back that load of the 46 kilowatt hours. So that means that we have 83% self-sufficiency here. So hopefully you see a pattern of what I'm saying here, guys. And yeah, on to the next day. Look at this again. Fantastic results. 97% self-sufficiency here. 76% of what was produced was used in the home. 18th, 100% of what was produced was used in the home here, and then which meant they were 97% self-sufficient. And then 19th, which was yesterday, is pretty much same figures again, and then which leads us to today being the 20th. Easter Sunday, happy Easter. 100% of everything that's been produced so far has gone straight into the home or the battery. And you can see here that this house is still currently running. It's running currently at 97% self-sufficient. So just to sort of get that image again of what this property looks like, it looks like this. So these panels here and these ones here and here are all facing the same direction pretty much. That is a southerly facing angle, not exact. I can't remember if they're slightly more east or west, but it's not far off south. And then here, these are easterly facing panels here. From memory, they're split across 3 different strings. I think we did this on one string here, this on another separate string, and then this on another string. Strings are basically circuits. So it means that all of these panels here are wired together on one circuit, and these are wired on another circuit, and these are wired on another circuit. And so each one of these circuits then leads back to the inverter in the property, which is located at the rear of the building over here. Yeah, there's a lot I could unpack from the installation side of things. That's not what this video is about. That's another day, guys, another video. But I hope this has been helpful. Please, if you're viewing this on YouTube, then give it a like, and I'd love for you to subscribe. If you want to know more about solar installations and solar production, then yes, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. We also have a presence on Facebook, Instagram as well. So yeah, keep an eye on us, guys, because we're doing lots of installations around the Bristol Bath area and also around the whole of the southwest as well. So if you're interested in a solar installation or finding out more about solar, then please contact us, and I'll be happy to talk to you. And yeah, happy Easter, everybody. I'll catch you in a bit.